And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Getting Dirty in the Neverwinter Nights 2 Toolset. Alright, we are still playing Path of Evil Remastered, and we came up upon another minor bug. Now, this one here, we are in the Kalimport Muzad area, and we were talking to this elven guy, this drow, named Kelsen, and he said he was going to bring us down to the Underdark. And when he teleports you, he brings you up to this area right here, where he's standing in front of you. And then when you go talk to him, you're going to have a conversation, and like midway through conversation, it cuts you off, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. And I think that's what we're going to start fixing in this episode. So, let me show you what's going to happen. We're going to talk to Kelsen here. We go through our conversation, and we do is Kelsen casts a spell on you and your companions. See? It just all of a sudden kicked you out of the conversation. As you can see down here, there's this big long paragraph right here that we should have kept going on with as far as this conversation goes. So, and there's another issue. If you talk to him later on, too, if you want to get out of here, yes, I'm ready to leave. And you're going to hit yes. And then see, it just kicks you out of the conversation again. Yeah, Kelsen casts a spell and you teleport, and all of a sudden that's it. These are the things we're going to fix in this episode. Alright, let's get out of here and go into the tool set. And here we are back in the tool set so we can investigate this issue. We are in the Po Muzad module folder at the moment. And the area name that we just came out of there was the Underdark Descent area. So if you look in your area list, you'll see one here called Underdark Descent. So let's go ahead and open that one up. There's actually going to be two dialogue files that we're going to be dealing with this time. Oh yeah, and by the way, this area is really dark when you open it up in a tool set. If you run into an issue, come up here to the day or night button up here and click sunrise or something like that so you can get a little bit of light up in here. And then zoom out a bit so you can actually see something. Alright, and let's see, the start area that we're dealing with is right over here. Let's get the camera situated here. Here's where you come in, right here at that waypoint. And right here is the Kelsen character, the Drow Elf. Now there's two dialogue files that we're going to be dealing with. The actual dialogue file that's attached to Kelsen, and there's another dialogue that fires once you hit this trigger right here. So this particular dialogue file is going to be called, if you come down here and look at these speak triggers, and you'll see this ellipse. If you click that, it's going to give you a bunch of variables and stuff like that that are going to be in here. And one of the variables is going to be the conversation file name, and as you can see, this one is called Muz Kelsen UND, which is short for under, I'm sure, and then welcome. Alright, so let's go ahead and get out of that, and now let's go over to let's come over here to conversations. If you have your PowerBar, just come up here and click on that, and we're going to open that specific one. So just come up here to open, and we're going to filter it. Remember, there's a word called welcome in that one dialogue file, so let's do a there it is, Muz Kelsen und welcome. So just double click that, and that's going to be our dialogue that we're going to deal with. Alright, now there's two opening nodes right here. One is going to open for you if you are a drow or a half drow. That's what this means right here. Get check race, PC 20 and 29. Those are the codes for drow and half drow. And just to let you know what that looks like, let's come down here to conditions. And here's those scripts that we're talking about, check race. If you scroll down in this, you'll see what the codes mean. Like code 20 is a drow, and the other one here is 29. So if you scroll down a little bit farther, you're going to see 29, which is half drow. So it's a specific node here for drow and half drow. That's how Kamal's got this set up. He's got it in all this kind of crazy elven language right here, this drow language. So, so we need to keep that in mind, because this issue is probably going to happen in both of these branches, this branch as well as this branch right here. So if you're not a drow or a half drow, this branch right here is going to be the one that's going to kick off. Now let's take a closer look at these, and let's see why that particular conversation quit all of a sudden. Remember, it all of a sudden happened as soon as we hit Kelsen casts a spell on you and your companions. As soon as I clicked that, that's when it kicked us out of this conversation. As you can see, there's a lot of conversation going on yet in this particular branch, so it's kind of important that we keep this conversation working. Okay, so as you can see, there's an action script here It's a GA cast fake spell at object. Now, I can tell you right now, I got a little bit of experience with this particular script. This script in the stock game is broken. But I made a fix for this a couple years ago, and I actually submitted it to the Neverwinter Fixes team, which is Kev L and all those guys, and he actually put my fix in the Neverwinter Fixes. And you can actually find that if you go in... Yeah, Neverwinter Fixes. I'll leave a link for this in the description below. If you're playing Neverwinter Nights 2, I highly recommend you use this. There's a lot of good stuff that's getting fixed in this. And just download it right from here. Direct download from GitHub. Yeah, this one down here I don't think is maintained anymore, so disregard that part. So just come right here and direct download it, and then put it in your override folder, just like the instructions say. You don't have to do anything else. Just put it in your override folder. It's going to fix all that stuff for you. Okay? But yeah, my fix that I made is actually in this. But unfortunately, now I have just discovered there's another issue with that script that we need to apply to this script specifically for Path of Evil, because this script is not going to be working like we want it to in Path of Evil. Yeah, the cast fake spell at object script it's actually designed to be ran from the end node of a conversation file, but in the middle of a conversation like this, that's what's causing this this conversation to just all of a sudden kick you out of the conversation and you can't speak anymore. Okay? Yeah, now the reason that happened with my game here in Path of Evil is because I actually do have the Neverwinter Fixes in my override, and that's why we're having these problems. If you don't have this Neverwinter Fixes, you're probably not going to run into this problem, although it's not going to work the way you want it to. This cast fake spell at, it's not going to do anything. Okay? But we're going to fix this. We're going to take a closer look at this. Now, as I said, this issue is in both of these branches right here. Remember, there's a branch up here, and then there's another branch right here for non-drow and non-half drow. So let's make sure we check both of them. As you can see, get cast fake spell at object is here, and then you can see it's up here as well. So we need to make sure these issues are taken care of in both of these. I don't think we're going to have to change the actual dialogue itself. I think what we're going to do is actually change the script. Okay, so let's come down here to our Actions tab so we can actually see this script. And let's take a closer look at this thing. And as you can see, there's a delay float for 1 second, and the caster is the tag of the character, which is Kelson right here. Here's his tag. And as you can see, that's fine. That one looks good. And let's spread this out a little bit farther. Alright, and it's spell number 92. Now, what this means is, here, you know what? Let's scroll this up a little bit higher here so you can get a better view of the preview window of the script here. Now, let's look at this description. It's going to explain what all these parameters are up here. Alright, the end spell one. This is the spell ID. See Neverwinter script files and the constants. You can also find this in a 2DA. Okay, if you got PowerBar, come up here to 2DA. If you don't have PowerBar, I think you can... Where can you look at 2DAs over here? Somewhere. Okay, here we go. In the view, 2DA file. If you click on that, you're going to get this window with all these 2DA files, and you can filter it. But since we have PowerBar, we're going to come over here right to 2DAs and then click down on it and then click open. And we're looking for a 2DA file called spells. So we're just going to filter it as spell. And there it is right there. Let's go ahead and double click that and open her up. And when this 2DA files open up, you're going to see this column here on the left with all these numbers, and it's all sequential. That is corresponding to the number that we were talking about here. So this spell ID right here, 92. Let's look at 92. Let's scroll down a little bit. Look for 92, and it's Invisibility Sphere. That's the spell he's casting. Okay? Now, like I said, if you don't have the Neverwinter Fixes file, this script isn't going to do a damn thing for you because it's broke. But like I said, I fixed it and I submitted it to the Neverwinter Fixes, and now Neverwinter Fixes has it. Alright, now let's take a closer look at this. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let's just open up this script. Oh, actually, before we continue on, let's look at the rest of these parameters. There's a spell target, so if you want this spell to be cast at a specific target, that's where you put their tag right here. And then a projectile path type, it's default into a default projectile path, but we're not going to get into that. What this script is actually going to do, it's going to it's going to cast a fake spell. So even if you don't know any spells, this script will make it appear that that NPC is casting a spell at something. Okay, even if they don't know any spells, it's not going to cause any harm. All it's doing is the animation and the graphics. So if he wants to cast like a bless spell, he'll do the animation to cast a spell, and then you're going to see all the effects of a bless spell cast. But it's not actually going to do anything. It's just purely animation for looks. Okay, that's what we're going to be dealing with. Okay, so let's go ahead and double click on the script name, and let's hit Control B, and let's actually open up the script itself. Alright, as you can see, I actually made a note on this back in 2019 in June, where I found out what the problem was with this stock script. If you look down here, there's a function called action cast fake spell at object. This didn't actually say that in the original script. This only said action cast spell at object. It didn't have the word fake in it, so that means it was jacked up. This is going to be a bad script. It's not going to actually do what you want it to, but we put the new function in there. Now it says action cast fake spell at object. Like I said, it's just going to make the animation and the graphics. It's not actually going to affect the target or anything like that. It's purely for like cutscenes and stuff, for making it look fancy and stuff like that. Make it look like he's actually casting a spell, but it's not doing anything. Okay, but in this form, we now just discovered here in Path of Evil that it's kicking us out of the conversation for some reason, and I think I already know what the problem is. Because there's actions that stack up, like there's a conversation action, and all of a sudden you're going to do this action too, because this is actually an action. Action cast fake spell at object. That is going to kick you out of this conversation, but there is a function you can use that will pause the dialogue so these other actions can execute. And then once they're done, it's going to continue on with the rest of the dialogue. And that is going to be like a pause function. So if you come over here to your script assist, and let's filter for the word pause, P-A-U-S-E. Alright, there's one here called action pause conversation. That's not the one we actually want. There's another one called action pause cutscene. That's the one we want. So let's go ahead and paste that in here right before this assign command, and then it's delayed, and then this action here for the cast fake spell. Let's go ahead and pop that in there right there. Action pause cutscene. Double click it and then put it in there. Now let's take a look at this description on this. This pauses the conversation in progress, just like action pause conversation. However, in this case, the conversation will automatically resume once at least one cutscene action has been assigned and there are no cutscene actions currently pending. The timeout passed in is the number of milliseconds before the cutscene should resume, no matter what. When a cutscene resumes due to a timing out, all pending cutscene actions will be cleared. Alright, and if the Boolean purge cutscene action on timeout is true, then if the timeout is hit, all pending cutscene actions will be cancelled. Okay? So that's what they're talking about down here. You can see there's two parameters. The timeout seconds, but they said this one's in milliseconds, so we got to remember that. There's 1,000 milliseconds in a second, so keep that in mind. Now there's a second parameter here called purge cutscene on timeout. That's what it was just talking about. It's defaulting to false, and that's what we want it left on. We don't want to purge anything. If you set this to true, it's probably going to kick you out of that conversation again. So we're just going to leave it on the default of false, and since it's already set up here as a constant, you don't have to input it up here. Okay, so let's come back up here to action pause cutscene, and let's do a left parentheses. Alright, now this is going to be in milliseconds, and this is in an integer form. As you can see, it's an integer, it says right here. So that means, let's say we want to do it for 2 seconds. That means we have to put the number 2000 up here. Okay? And then right parentheses, and then semicolon, and that'd be it. That just it would pause the actual dialogue for 2 seconds, and then the action cast fake spell at object would kick in and then run, and then after that 2 seconds, the conversation will proceed normally. Okay? But what I think I want to do, I want to coincide this delay to match the delay for this action cast fake spell at object. Because as you can see, there's a float up here. for the amount of seconds to delay for this action cast fake spell at object to fire. What that means, it's going to pause for that amount of seconds before it actually kicks off that spell. Okay, and I think I want to coincide that with this action pause cutscene. But action pause cutscene, I said, uses integers, whereas this delay command uses floats. Okay, now I'm going to show you something else, how we can convert a float into an integer. So if you come up here and go to your script assist again and then type in the word float, you're going to see all kinds of functions here with the word float in it. Now the one we want is a function called float to int. That's that one right there. So what we're going to do, we're going to replace this 2000. Let's get rid of that 2000. I want to use float to int, and that's going to return as an int, as you can see right here. Actually, let's go ahead and make a whole new declaration. Let's make an int, and then we're just going to call it n, and then equals float to int. Let's just double click that, and now what we want to do is input a float, and that float is going to be this f seconds delay right here. Okay, so we're going to do left parentheses, and then let's copy f seconds delay, and then right parentheses, and then semicolon. Alright, so now we have an integer designated as n, and it's defined as that f seconds delay float is now converted to an integer. That's what that's saying right here. So that means n is this integer. N is now this declaration as an integer. So if we come back down here to action pause cutscene, we can now put the letter n in here. Just like that. So that means this float, which is now converted to an integer, will now work in this action pause cutscene right here. Alright, now remember, this action pause cutscene uses milliseconds, not seconds, and there's 1,000 milliseconds in a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this a mathematical equation. We're going to multiply n times, which is the star, 1,000. Alright? So that's how that's going to work. So let's see, if somebody puts 2-second delay in here, that means it's going to be 2,000 milliseconds. Okay? 2,000 milliseconds is the same as 2 seconds. That's what that's saying. And that should make this thing work like it's supposed to. So let's go ahead and save this and see if it's going to compile. Yes, it compiled. Now let's go into game now and see if this is actually going to work fine like we want it to. Alright, here we are in game. Let's see if this first conversation is going to fire. Now, since we fixed that script, it should fix the second conversation we're going to have with them too. Because we didn't actually do anything to the conversation files, we only fixed the script. So let's talk to Kelson. Alright, Kelson casts a spell on you and your companions. There we go. He casts a spell and we're still in conversation. Remember that long conversation block we missed before? It kicked us out at that point, so as you can see, we're still in conversation. It's probably important too because we just had an update to our journal. Alright, so now if we talk to him in that second conversation, when we talk to him personally, are you ready to leave? Yes. Okay, yes. Let's see what he's going to do. Okay, yeah, did not kick us out of conversation. You brace yourself for teleport. Okay, so it looks like that should be a good fix by adding that. Off camera I did add another note in here. Added the action pause cutscene function to prevent the PC from being kicked out of the convo if this script is used midway through the dialogue. So we should be good to go on this one. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure this particular script overrides even any files that might be in the Neverwinter Fixes file that the player might have in their override folder. Because remember, the Neverwinter Fixes files, you install it in your override folder. Now, there's a hierarchy of priority of files in Neverwinter Nights 2, and the absolute highest priority is any files in a hack file. Hack files will override anything in your override folder. So that's what we want to do next. We want to add this file that we just fixed and put it in the hack file for Path of Evil. And like I said, the reason we want to do that is because we want to override any files that are in the override, because the players could have this Neverwinter Fixes patch in their override folder. So we want to override that file, that specific cast fake spell at object file that Neverwinter Fixes has. Okay, so here's what I want you to do next. If you go, and I'll leave a link to this, if you go into the vault, there's a nice little program called Neverwinter Nights 2 Packer version 1.9. You can use this, or there's an even better one that you can use, and this is the one I actually use right here. There's one in Lady Desire's Tool Pack. This one here is actually compiled using the latest patch for Neverwinter Nights 2. That's why I use this one. And I'll leave a link to this here in the description below. Just download this right here, this Neverwinter 2 Packer. Okay, this is a fancy little program that allows you to gain access to IRF files and hack files and mod folders, or mod files and all that stuff. Really handy to use. Highly recommend you get this. So once you get it installed, you're going to be able to access hack files. So let's go into our folder here, and let's see, let's get into our hack folder and our player directory here. If you open your hack directory, you're going to see a popatch hack.hack file that comes with the Path of Evil installation. If you now have that Packer installed and you assign it to these hack files, if you double click on this hack file, it'll now open up in this Packer right here. As you can see, there's already some files in it. Now we want to put this particular script, GA cast fake spell at object, we want to put that script inside this hack and save it, because like I said, remember, we want to have this script, this new updated one, to override anything that's in your override folder, just in case they got that Neverwinter Fixes patch. Okay, now let's go back into our other folder, and my stuff is in my override folder, so wherever you save it, that's where it's going to be, but mine is currently in the override, and I got it in my fixes up here. Okay, so we're looking for these two files right here, the GA cast fake spell at object, and that's where I saved it. As you can see, when I did my compilation on it, you can look down here and it says it was saved in Neverwinter Nights 2 override my fixes. That's a personal folder that I use for anything that I update as far as scripts and all that stuff, in my fixes folder in my override, so I can keep that stuff organized. Alright, so what we want to do is just simply drag and drop these two files right into that hack file. So let's just go ahead and make sure both of them are selected. Let's get both of them, the NCS and the NSS. Let's just drag it right into here, and as you can see, it's adding them in there. Now this won't let you save if you have it open here in the toolset, so you're gonna have to close out of the toolset and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and close out of this. Let's close all this stuff, and we're not going to have to deal with these dialog files, and we're not going to have to deal with the area, so let's not save anything, and let's just close out of that. Okay, so now as you can see, there's a button here called Save. Just click Save, and now it's good to go. Alright, now what we're going to do is run a test. Let's close out of this, and let's see, let's go back up to our hack folder, and then let's open this patch up now, and just to make sure everything took hold here. Let's double click on it, open it. Okay, you can see, yeah, those fake spell, cast fake spells at files are here, so we should be good to go. Alright, let's do one other thing. Let's go back into our override folder, and I want to do a little test here. Let's go into my fixes, and I'm going to pull these files out. I'm going to pull them out, put them on my desktop. That'll get them out of my override. I'm using that to test now. So if we go into Neverwinter Nights 2 and let's run this game and see if this hack is going to work. I'll see you in game. Alright, here we are back in game, and now remember, I pulled those script files out of my override, so they only exist inside the hack now. Okay, those scripts are nowhere else except in the hack. So let's test it and make sure it works. Let's talk to Kelson. Alright, let's click it. Yep, running fine. Alright, we can continue on through this conversation. Now let's talk to him with that other conversation file. Make sure it still works on that one. Brace yourself for teleport. Yep, here we go. Everything's working great. Alright, and we just teleported back. So everything is working great, and we should be good to go. So that was a relatively easy fix. So at least you guys know how to do hack files and stuff like that now, so you can at least get into them and alter them if you want to. Alright, but that's about it. Okay, so that's another issue fixed. If you guys are still liking these, let me know. I'll keep going with them. We'll see you in the next episode, ladies and gentlemen.